Right, so here we are with Nerdly Out Loud again, another Romford horror session, and we've just had on screen 3 a bit of a double bill with short movie Spellbound and feature-length film The Creeping. Two fantastic looking movies, so we're going to talk about them. And we have director, actress and cinematographer from the different projects, but I'll let them introduce themselves and tell us what you guys did on these projects.
My name is Ben. I was the cinematographer on The Creeping.
My name is Robin. I was the producer, writer and director of Spellbound.
I'm Lisa and I acted in Spellbound.
Excellent. So we'll start with Spellbound a little bit, and where did this idea come from, Robin? Because it's a bit mad, isn't it? Where did this come from, and how did you get the concept for it?
It kind of started with an image. I first had this moment in my mind of like a face appearing in the glow of a phone screen, and I kind of built the rest around that, weirdly enough. And I just like occult aesthetics, and I was interested in the idea of having a short about kind of a haunting, but with slightly more ambiguous motivation kind of behind it, and there's also a bit of like toxic relationships, being drawn to people that aren't good for you, that kind of thing in it. It all sort of fell into place after getting the ball rolling.
And you chose to go the super easy way of having dreamscapes and whatnot, and can you tell us a little bit about creating that? Because aesthetically, when I first watched your short, that popped. That whole little sequence, the nightmare sequence, really pops out. Can you tell us a little bit about how you went about creating that?
Yeah, first there was some concept art done, so I would have a little bit of a reference to give to the VFX artist. It was mostly other like references, like obsidian type structures, and a big inspiration was the scenes in Under the Skin that are also kind of in a purgatory-esque environment. So I had a little like design document with references, and we had a short like previs done that was just very rudimentary, just like doing a composite in like 20 minutes just to get a feel for what the pacing would be and where all the elements would end up. So that also helped to visualize it before it was actually getting made properly.
And Liza, when did you come on board the project, and how did you get prepared to be the witchy witch?
I had worked with Robin previously on another project, and I actually really just followed what he said, like piece by piece, and it was some of the shoots were separated by some years in the end, unintentionally, just what happened. Just kind of took direction and tried to make any suggestions that might actually be.
And did he take your suggestions, or was it, no, just do it my way?
I don't even know how much I really suggested. I remember being asked in another Q&A, like, did you do a lot of research yourself into the spells? And I was like, no, I didn't myself. Robin seemed to really know what was going on there. So I hope he didn't make me do anything real, because I just did it. Do you have anything to say about that?
That's everyone cursed.
Yeah.
Basically just went with kind of like the feather theme, because they were are also often used in like Wiccan type spells, and just basically looking back on all the sort of other horror films involving spells that I've seen, and kind of
I feel like the thought did cross my mind, like what am I doing here? Like, I don't know how much I believe in that, but at the same time, I know people who definitely do. And and then I was like, no, I don't think I completed anything, especially with stopping for the camera and everything. I don't think I completed anything that would actually come to mean anything until you edit it together.
Hopefully.
You know, I mean, I was obsessed with the actor. No, I wasn't. But I was also asked a lot about her psychology, whereas I think maybe it's more about from his point of view. It's quite unanswered about her.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about his experience and suffering and being forced to do things he doesn't really want to do. I don't know. Again, if you want to comment on that, Robin, or if we need to get onto the creeping.
Well, yeah. Quickly, we'll jump over to Ben for a second. We all, as the jury and the panel and everything, like the selection panel and everything, the cinematography, which is why I'm quite glad you're here, on The Creeping is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you very much.
How did you get into being a cinematographer? What was the path through, and how did you come onto The Creeping?
So many years ago in my youth. No, I mean, I really did. I mean, I started making. My nickname at school was Dawson, so that ages me. But
I'll tell you what, Google that, kids.
Yeah, quite. So I started off, making short films when I was sort of 11, really, and kind of did everything, wrote and directed and shot, and and then I went to university, did a sort of straight kind of uni degree, and then started working in the industry in sort of 2007, and then in 2009 I applied to go to the National Film and Television School and applied as a cinematographer. So I think at that point I was kind of I sort of realised what I didn't enjoy doing, or I mean I can do, but didn't really enjoy. So editing and sort of that side, post-production, I kind of it's not that I'm like I said, I can do it, but I'm just not. I don't enjoy it as much. I enjoy working with people in that on that side, so I studied cinematography at the National, and just loved sort of making images, really, and and I'd always taken photos, and always kind of enjoyed. Sort of composing things, I suppose, and I think probably it's at some point, between the age of 11 and sort of 21, I think I'd kind of started watching films with a, how did they do that? Like, what is that? Yeah, more with that kind of sort of look. And sort of interesting, like sort of just watching, like what what's the camera doing? Where's the where is it, and how's that communicating the story?
How collaborative on The Creeping was it for you? Because you're dealing with undertones, really, like the mental health side of things and the sort of the supernatural side of things. Like, how collaborative did you need to be with the director to make sure that you made sure that the screen was showing what it was supposed to?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's really interesting. Like, different directors have different. The relationship between a cinematographer and a director is kind of different on each project, really. I think for me, when I sort of agree to do a film, it's always based off the script and whether or not I kind of connect with the story in some way, and then lots of conversations, with the director, like in advance. So whether it's breaking it down into shots, into a shot list, or storyboarding, or what are your visual references, what is it that you're trying to communicate. And I think in a weird kind of way, the cinematographer's job is to sort of translate your own vision of the script, but then also to interpret what the director's idea is, and to kind of deliver that in a way. So it's an odd mix of being like you're in service to the vision of the director and ultimately the vision of the film, but then also having your own ability to kind of introduce the way that you see things. And sometimes that relationship is delightful, and sometimes that relationship is less delightful. And on this one, I was very lucky. I mean, Jamie's a very visual filmmaker. He has done, all of the short films that he had made up until that date. He'd actually shot himself. Working with a cinematographer was a new thing for him. But it was great because he had a very kind of clear idea, and so I was able to talk to him on that level. But I've also directed, so I think it was kind of like it's a nice balance because I could kind of, it was. I mean, when you're making low budget films, it's you're all there to serve.
Everyone's wearing multiple hats.
Yeah, exactly, and everybody's there to serve the film at the end of the day. So I think, I think we only had 7 or 8 people in the crew. So, we didn't have a first AD. Like, we all kind of ended up like being the first AD.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of, so it was kind of everybody's idea. It was just a big melting pot, really.
So then when you've got all those different people coming together and it's such a collaborative thing, and then you see it up on the big screen, like how cool is that?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's it's why it's I mean, I think it's funny. Like, I think certainly we sort of lucked out in a weird kind of way. Like COVID kind of, this wasn't a COVID film, but it was. I mean, we shot it in 2019, but then obviously, we had this amazing exec producer who was kind of really clear when we shot it. She was like, she doesn't want things to take forever in post, so she's kind of, so it's you really got to kind of deliver your budget and be like, okay, this is the production, this is post, this is what's the delivery date, and then obviously sort of 6 months later COVID hit, and we were having a conversation and I said, well, look, cinemas are shut and there's no festivals and we don't really know when that's going to come back, so there's no need to rush now. Like, we're at home, we're kind of doing the best that we can. So we actually, in a weird kind of way, benefited from that slight delay, because I think it meant that Jamie was able to take even longer doing the edit and even longer doing the VFX and, the sound and all the rest of it. So I think it's, and I think, horror in particular, you want to see it in a room with other people.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's some very good like online platforms, but at the same time, there's nothing, there are other films that you could happily watch at home, like by yourself, or sort of within a festival environment, but kind of by yourself. But horror, you kind of need a room full of people to be gasping and jumping and doing whatever else. So yeah, it's amazing. I always love seeing it on the big screen.
I think the Creeper and Spellbound as well, because cinematically it's another fantastic shot. So it's like seeing it up on the big screen. That must have been great. How was that for you today?
Yeah, it was great, especially hearing the sound mix and sound design and the score in action. Up until now, I've just sort of had to take their word for it. Yeah, but it was great.
So is this the first time you've seen it all together, like on a big screen, or?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
So you've both got a very good eye for what you're doing and everything, but who kind of inspires you? Who did you see at a young age and you thought, oh man, I want to be doing that, like directors, actors?
You go first.
Okay. Yeah, it's I think Darren Aronofsky inspired me a lot, because there's always I think Black Swan especially, because how the themes of that story are also so woven into kind of the shots and the set design and everything. It's all supporting basically the same narrative. And currently I really like Mike Flanagan's work. It's the kind of thing that's so good it almost makes you want to quit filmmaking. But yeah, just the characters and the whole set design and everything. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan's top notch, and so when you are seeing it on the big screen, and it's a question that I like to ask everyone because it sort of puts you on the spot and it'll be good for you as well. When creatives see their work on the big screen, all they see are issues, problems, things that they don't like, and things that they could have changed. Today, when you were watching it, what's the one thing that stood out that you thought, smashed that, made a really good job of that, that looks amazing?
I think well, the dream sequence, and I think the set design, the aesthetics of it, I think work really well, if I do say so myself.
I think a lot of people say that, don't worry. And yourself? Like Liza? Seen yourself up on the big screen there?
I actually have seen it before on the big screen, so I've had time to get used to it. I even when it's on the small screen, I generally have to watch it a few times to be stopping being like, oh no, it's my face. And then I'm like, okay, how does the story... I would tell people about the CGI and the dream sequence without giving too much away. That's why I would recommend them that they watch it, and like the colours and but the flow of it as well, and like definitely those little surprises, visual surprises. And then it's also in terms of my work, then I'm like, okay, yeah, it does serve the story. That works. So.
Excellent. Is there any particular shot, or even a shot that, because I do get this a lot now as well, a shot that maybe didn't make the final cut, but is there anything that you're super proud of?
No, you know what? I think pretty much everything that we shot kind of made it in. I don't think we dropped any scenes as far as I'm aware. I mean, there's kind of so many actually. I mean, I loved filming those actresses. They were all absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Jane and Ryan and Sophie, they were delightful to work with. And there's that lovely shot when Jane comes to the door and says, he's here, and I sort of did the little twist in on her face. That was great fun. But actually, probably the fun one was the driving sequences, because that was poor man's process. So the car was just parked up on the drive of the house, and Jamie was rocking the entire, and we had somebody else spinning a flag around, and somebody else flicking a light on and off for the brake lights and all the rest of it. And I think it works. It looks like they're bombing along a country lane, and
Is that one of those things where when you're on set on the day, you're thinking this is not going to work, and then when it actually does, you're like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, I think certain people were pretty skeptical. It has to be said. I think there's probably a very funny behind the scenes video somewhere of particularly the actresses finding the whole thing hilarious as they're watching 8 crew members jumping up and down and springing the thing, and me sort of rattling from side to side trying to give the sense of a car driving at speed, but and it was just parked up outside the house. So that was
independent filming.
It was really fun. I mean, hey, it worked.
Yeah,
it's worked for many years. So that was quite fun to do. Yeah.
So what's next for everyone? What are you yourself working on as a cinematographer? Are you working with Jamie again?
I'd love to work with Jamie again. I mean, I think Jamie's writing. I think he's actually written a couple of things. So I think he'll probably be sort of putting things out for finance at some point. Obviously, The Creeping's got a release in America, so hopefully that'll open some doors for Jamie. And I'm currently in post on a feature that I wrote and directed and shot last January. So we're sort of finishing that up. That should be done by about May, and we'll sort of hopefully get that into some festivals later in the year. And I'm actually writing a lot of stuff at the moment. So no immediate plans to shoot anything. But who knows? We'll see what happens.
And Robin, got anything coming up?
I'm working on 2 short film scripts. One is more of a folk horror type thing, and the other is a cosmic horror.
Cosmic horror.
Yeah.
2 words that just excite me.
Yeah. I always find it a bit intimidating to tackle it because it's tricky to get right, I feel. But they both need a couple of more passes. I think it'll just be whichever one I get to first, really. We'll need to start thinking about features sooner rather than later, but I always dread it a bit.
Would you ever consider blowing Spellbound up a bit more and expanding on that story?
Some people have told me they could see it as a feature, but I I don't. I'm not sure. Maybe I need to think about it some more. But it doesn't strike me immediately as a feature. But yeah, we'll see.
Excellent. And Eliza, anything?
I have a small question about that. I don't know if it's relevant for here. Like, you should ask them why they see it as that, in case they have a good idea. or like I wouldn't have either.
You just
thought,
want a bigger part.
yeah, I just want to be in the future, But it's also like I know someone who's made a short into a feature now, and I personally couldn't see it, and I'm curious to see how they do it, because also I've seen the reveal in the short, so I'm like, well, what more could they do? But maybe I'm being unimaginative. I'm just auditioning as we do. Voices, more weird stuff, maybe going into non-human-ish characters. Was she human? And yeah, maybe some writing and filmmaking myself, but I know it's a lot harder than it looks.
Excellent. So the good thing about having you three guys here right now for this is we have 3 different disciplines on show. Yeah, we've got a cinematographer. I know you do the directing as well, and the writing. We've got a director who does the writing and editing and everything, and an actress. What one bit of advice would you put out there to anybody who is looking at the festival thinking, I want to go out and make my short, or a feature? What bit of advice would you give them?
I'd say just find your people and go and do it. I mean, it's, when I look back to when I started, when I was 11, it wasn't quite as difficult as having to afford a film camera, but it was a VHS-C camcorder and sort of tape to tape, but VHS to VHS editing with 2 TVs and
those were the days, eh?
Yeah, weren't they? We loved them so much, but it was or even like early computer processing. I had a Blueberry iMac for years, and I used to cut on iMovie, and it was expensive. Like, that stuff was expensive. And now, the phone in my pocket can produce better images than I was producing back then. So I think if you've got an idea, like, just find your people and just go and make it. Just get out there and and learn, like, and be prepared to make mistakes, and because every single time you make a film you get better, you learn things for the next one, and we're still learning. I mean, I don't think you ever really stop.
No.
And
I think if you think you have stopped learning, then you've definitely not done it right.
Yeah, I mean, one of my tutors at the film school that I was at used to say, the day that you walk off a set and think, you know what, that was amazing, I can't do better than that, is the day you might as well give up. Yeah. Because you're constantly, you should always be looking to the next thing, be like, oh, I'd love to try this or try that or do this in a different way or whatever. So I think just don't have any fear. Don't let the fear of it not being very good hold you back, because I mean, it probably won't be to start off with, but then they get better, and that's you learn by making.
I mean, a good thing for that is look at Michael Mann. He reshot like his first couple of movies, so it's kind of like, if Michael Mann's thinking it's not good enough.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, like, read other filmmakers as well, because there's great resources now on Twitter, like, filmmakers talking about their process and stuff. But I mean, one of my favourite ones is if you read either Eleanor Coppola's book about the making of Apocalypse Now. She was obviously on set with her husband, but also a documentary that she made. And you see Francis Ford Coppola tearing his hair out, thinking that he's an awful filmmaker and is never going to work again, and all the rest of it. And I mean, Apocalypse Now is obviously an absolute masterpiece.
It's pretty
but
good.
It's pretty good, But that self-doubt that he had whilst he was making it, I think it's kind of encouraging to see that even the filmmakers that you kind of go, they're some of the greatest filmmakers in the world, are equally plagued by that self-doubt. Spielberg was on Desert Island Discs the other week, and he said exactly the same thing. He was like, every single time he's just waiting for one of his films to bomb and for the audience not to like it, and he sort of feels like every single time he puts it out to an audience,
a little bit of imposter syndrome kind of
exactly. So I mean, and that's Spielberg, like, so you kind of think, well, we've all got that, we've all got that fear. So I think just don't have any try not to let the fear, put you off. That
Awesome.
would be my advice.
I like that.
I would add to that, don't skip the boring stuff, because everybody wants to rush to set, get to the fun stuff, but I think especially as a director, like going through the script meticulously and writing down each character's motivation for each scene is such a good tool to fall back on if you need it on set. And also, as weird as that sounds, if you can't write down what the goal of the character is, you might not quite understand the scene yourself, which can be an issue if you then have to communicate what's going on. And yeah, just that type of thing. Go over your shot list a couple more times before the shoot, and yeah, just stuff like that.
And I had a little chat with Robin in the bar the other night, and always bite off more than you can chew. Because you seem pretty. I think I went a bit too far, but yeah, we got it.
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
But if you kill yourself doing it, it's worth it. And Liza, anything that you would throw out there for people?
As an actor?
As
Or-
anything, as an actor, writer, anything.
Yeah, time permitting, don't be afraid to try different things with the actors and kind of push them. I don't know, sometimes I feel like people have been like, maybe it doesn't matter for what they want, and they've got what they want,
Right.
and that's a different story. But I think sometimes they think, oh, that's probably about what they can do. And I think actors are usually very willing to try very different things, whether it's more subtle or something out there that you don't use. As an actor, I would say make films. Like, I have been very I don't want to make these bad first pancakes, but apparently they happen. Like, your first tries are apparently going to probably be bad, and you're probably going to have to want
I
to
know exactly what you're saying.
never show anyone, or you want to quit, or you want to reshoot them. and but I guess you have to get through that and just don't give up and keep experimenting and everything that these guys said already.
Well, that's awesome. And as part of the festival, as part of Nerdly and everything, I want to thank you guys for submitting the movies. The Creeping and Spellbound are both fantastic, and good little combination to have on Screen 3 there with those two films, both aesthetically just gorgeous. So yeah, thank you for submitting, thanks for letting us show it, and most of all, thanks for being here today. It's awesome.